Hello, and welcome to the Let Them Live podcast. I'm Emily Burning, your host, and also the president and co-founder of Let Them Live. We bring you interviews with unsung heroes and inspiring individuals who are in the fight to save babies, mothers, and fathers from abortion. Our goal is to amplify their voices and bring their stories to the forefront, shedding light on the incredible work they do and the lives they touch. Podcast. It's a platform that allows everyone to share their pro-life stories and inspire us to passionately continue advocating for life. Welcome back to the Let Them Live podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I have a little bit of a different background behind me. Nathan and I are currently in Indiana, and we are so excited to have our next guests, Kathy and Carolyn from the Kentucky Memorial for the Unborn. Thank you guys both so much for being here. I'm so excited to learn more.
Thank you for having us, Emily.
Absolutely. So why don't you both just tell us a little bit about your backgrounds, maybe a little bit of your pro-life story. And we could probably start with you, Carolyn, since you're at the top of my screen.
Okay. I have served on the committee for the Unborn for 5 years. I also serve as the outreach coordinator and also manage the Facebook page.
That's amazing. And Kathy, what about you?
I'm the founder of the Kentucky Memorial for the Unborn, and we started planning it in 2000, dedicated it in 2013. So it took us about 7 years to find an architect to draw a design and then find some land available in order to build it. And then we raised funds and then eventually had the dedication in May 2013.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And tell me a little bit about how this idea came to be, what inspired this, and what was the vision behind it?
I can answer a little bit of that. I had, unfortunately, an abortion when I was 18 and regretted it immediately and grieved for years, not really knowing that I was grieving or why I continued to grieve. And eventually was referred to a post-abortion healing program. And in these programs, you are encouraged to pray and ask the Lord to help you name your lost baby. And then you light a candle in honor of your baby. But for me, that wasn't enough. I wanted to do something a little bit more permanent for closure, to recognize this life that I hope to see again one day in heaven, and that kind of birthed the Kentucky Memorial for the Unborn, doing something in a cemetery as you would for any other family member you've lost.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's really important because as pro-lifers, one of our struggles is getting other people to see the value of the life that is in the womb. And one of the things that we can do is show just how real and human they are. And this memorial is an amazing way of doing it. And it just shows that these lives are remembered and they are memorialized and they're not forgotten and not just left off and never to be remembered again. So I think that's absolutely amazing. And Carolyn, how did you get involved? How did you two meet? Maybe you guys can tell me a little bit about that and how you got involved with this, because I think this is just such an important thing.
I had met Kathy years ago. There was a student event going on, and she'd asked me to serve on the memorial committee, but at that time I couldn't. That's been many years ago. But I was trying to think about that the other day, how we actually met. And Kathy, do you remember that?
I think Bonnie, one of our mutual friends named Bonnie Brock, introduced us, and we just hit it off from the beginning. Carolyn's a very passionate person and is always willing to share her ideas and thoughts, and that's always appreciated on the committee. And I just could see so many talents that God had blessed her with and really wanted her to join us.
I'll pay you later. Okay.
I know that wasn't on my also. It's always so hard to remember how you meet people. And I think that's amazing. And I really believe there's no mistakes. God brings people together for a reason.
Absolutely.
And to see I'm sure that you guys have just seen so many wonderful things together. Tell me a little bit. This is just, I'm excited. I think the next time that Nathan and I pass through Kentucky on our way back to Florida, we're going to have to stop by because I want to see it in person. But maybe talk a little bit about how it came to be. Like, did everything just fall into place? You had to buy a lot. You had to put the monument. How did this all happen? I'm sure it was a big deal.
Nothing was very easy about the monument. And from the very start, just sharing the idea, people would just look at you. I don't understand what you're talking about. They didn't understand the need for it or why anyone else would be interested in supporting something like this. So trying to get to the heart of it and why it was needed was probably initially the most difficult part. For me personally, I had that desire, but explaining it emotionally was much more difficult for me. It's just something that I really had to talk to other women who were interested in, such as Carolyn, and have them to be able to express it more succinctly to some potential donors. And then next, sharing it. I just would pray every day and ask the Lord to give me ideas or give me the names of people that I should contact. And each day I tried to be faithful to do that. And one day, landscape architect was mentioned to me. So I went to visit him and shared him my personal story of what had happened and then why I wanted to do it. And he said, this will probably take a while. So I didn't expect to hear from him for months. I think that was on a Thursday, and he called me on Monday and said, well, he felt God was guiding his hand in the drawing, and he was very excited to share it, wanted me to come over there as soon as possible to see what he had drawn. And that initial drawing, I took it around to different groups, crisis pregnancy centers, churches, etc. And people would walk up to that drawing and just tears would start rolling down their cheeks. It was very anointed. And so that was initially something that we did, but it was slow getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a saying that I heard the other day from someone who was interviewing me, and he said, if it's God's will, he'll foot the bill. And I thought that was so true, because here we are and we're all trying to do this, and we're all trying to support women and show the value of the unborn. And like you said, you had to reach out to donors. These things cost money. So you have to make sure that you can do it. And
the timing was such that you remember the downturn in the economy in 2007, 2008, in the mortgage crisis and everything else going on. It was a very difficult time to start calling people and say, would you be interested in helping us in this endeavor?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that just shows how when God commissions us to do something, right? And you're like, I don't know how to do this, God, you're going to have to give me the tools. And then he does. He certainly shows up. The one thing that I've been so curious about, what has been the response of the memorial? Have you guys had any issues with people? I hope not vandalizing or anything, but has there been a positive response? Has it been a negative? Has it been neutral?
We have had a positive response. We've had several events there. We've had legislators, and I'm not sure if you were aware, but we are in the historic section of the Frankfort Cemetery. We're nestled on the hillside, overlooking the Kentucky River and onto the Kentucky State Capitol. And we've had visitors that come out. They just see the signs for the memorial for the unborn, and they're curious. So they go and they drive around and they find it. And many people are touched because it's a very, to me, it's like holy ground. We have a little over 300 names of babies or words of endearment have been inscribed on the memorial wall. They represent little ones that have been lost through either miscarriage, stillbirth, and even abortion. And that's my personal story, just a real short, is why the memorial is special to me. When I was younger, I had 2 abortions, and I had once I got onto the committee and years passed, I had their names inscribed on the wall to give them honor, dignity, that they have a special place in my heart. I truly regret my abortions. And I believe if there was someone for me before I had the abortions, that would sit down and talk with me about why it was wrong and that it was actually a baby and it wasn't a piece of tissue, I would have changed my mind. And their lives were tragically lost to abortion. And the inscriptions allowed their names to be recognized and lived on, that they truly did exist. And I know that when I first went up there to see their names inscribed on the wall, etched on the wall, I placed my hand on it and I just was overcome with emotion. That finally they are, they're just not a memory. They're actually on on this wall, which is, like I said, very special to me.
Yeah.
And the memorial is a place where people can go and they can grieve their losses and find peace, find healing, find restoration, and even find purpose. When they see all the lives of these little ones that are on the wall, they may find purpose as to why God put them on this earth, is to stand up for life.
Yeah, absolutely. And to hear that you both have had abortions and the abortion experience, and to see that you are now putting your time and your effort and your passion and your love into something that allows other women to heal and other men to heal, but also hoping that it reaches people before they even have an abortion, is a true testament. God really takes the awfulness in our lives and he turns it into good. We've had many people work at Let Them Live, and one of our main executives, she's had an abortion. She had an abortion when she was 16, and I actually interviewed her, and to hear how she can never take that back, but what she can do now moving forward. And so I can understand why this holds such a special place in your hearts because of your own experiences. And I'm sure neither of you wants any other woman to experience an abortion because of the pain that it causes. And we can only hope that a woman considering abortion pulls off and sees the sign and stops by and prevents an abortion. And you may never know how many lives you've saved or how many lives you've touched. But how many people do go to the memorial every year? Is that something that you guys know?
It's not something that we track, but in selecting the location, we wanted something that was private so that people could mourn and grieve in a private way, but also accessible and also had some traffic pattern. So it's, as Carolyn was saying, it's a unique site that we selected, and we felt like God ordained it, just opened up to us. But it's near Daniel Boone and Rebecca, their grave site. So there's quite a steady bit of traffic that comes through that area and then eventually winds down to the more private part. And we're in the back of the cemetery. But there are signs that lead back there, and people walk through this historic cemetery as well. Get some regular.
It's a lot of traffic then. Okay, so that makes sense. You have then people that are there for other reasons, and maybe they stumble upon it, and that's really beautiful because, again, you may never know who you're going to reach. And you guys had mentioned the inscriptions. Are these inscriptions that anyone can leave, that primarily moms or maybe men can leave as well?
We opened it up, even grandparents can leave an inscription for a grandchild. We just ask that it be for a particular baby or babies, because some people use one inscription for multiple babies. But the unborn babies in the womb that have been lost to miscarriage, stillbirth, or, for those who regret having an abortion, it gives you a place to remember them, to honor them, that they did exist, and that we do hope to see them again. And as you mentioned, Emily and Carolyn, that by seeing this wall, when people come up to it, it brings many people to tears, because the wall speaks. These voices of these babies seem to speak from the wall. And it really touches men in an emotional way, where such as healing programs and other avenues haven't been able to touch them as much as women.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And the fact that you touched on grandparents as well, because sometimes we can get caught up and focused in on how this issue affects women, which it absolutely does. And then there's a whole other group of people that are affected: men, grandparents, aunts, uncles. Like, everybody can be touched and affected by abortion. And so to allow that is really amazing. What a great healing process. I don't know if you both have one or maybe multiple, but are there any specific inscriptions that really stand out to you or that really have hit you and you want to share with us?
There's one that really touched me immediately, because the gentleman had called me and shared his story, but he felt helpless as his girlfriend made the decision to have an abortion, and he had really wanted to have the baby and bring it up himself. And so when he found out about the memorial, he decided on a name for the baby, and then there's 2 lines for each inscription. And on the second line, it simply says, "Daddy loves you," which just still to this day really hits a chord in my heart. It's just very moving.
Absolutely. I feel like that really hits you too, because it makes people realize that there is a relationship of father and child involved in this. Carolyn, is there an inscription that really stood out to you or stands out to you?
I use my own. The names of my two children were Juliana and Matthew. I didn't name them until later on. That there was a young woman that I had met through a campus ministry, and she had an abortion, and she told me, we started sharing, and I had shared with her I had an abortion, and she shared with me that she had the name of her baby. And I said, how'd you do that? She says, she goes, just ask God. He'll tell you. And I never really thought about that. And so over time, God gave me the name of Juliana and the name of Matthew. And so the inscription that I put on the wall was from Psalm 32:5. Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin.
That's a beautiful inscription, and it's there forever. So
yeah, it is beautiful.
Right.
And some aren't able to come up with a name for one reason or another. So there's a wide variety of the walls. Some people just put words of dedication. And there was one recent inscription that really touched me by a woman who didn't name her baby, but it says, love I was too hurt to give, you now have. So that just says it's poignant to how she was probably in a difficult situation when she made that decision, but has come to a point where she wants to honor and acknowledge the baby and let the baby know how much love she has to give.
Yeah. And I think this is beautiful, again, like the healing that comes from this, because so many women have abortions and then they are stuck in the pain and the regret and the guilt and the shame. And that's not what God it has for us. And so to provide at least maybe a step in the healing process, I know that the post-abortive healing process, you do name your child and you do have to acknowledge. And so this is like a very real tangible way to do it. And I think this is something that should be in every single state. This should be something that anyone can go to, even any cemetery, and find a memorial. So is that something that you guys have thought about? Or I'm sure that would be a very big undertaking. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on expanding.
Emily, I think through your ministry and what you're doing right now by sharing this on podcast and video, that is getting the word out to individuals. And it's also going to help them to catch a vision of a memorial for the unborn to be considered in their own community or their state. And we do use advertising for the inscriptions. We have the end of April that someone can inscribe, or September. And so we put that information out. We also use brochures, and we've had committee members who have served on a radio program to tell more about the memorial. And we're also hoping to share our link with other ministries, organizations, to get the word out.
Yes.
And I can think of one in particular ministry that I just found here in Kentucky. And it's very unique, just like yours. And this ministry, they make memorial gowns for babies who've been stillbirth or miscarriages out of wedding gowns. And then they make packages and they send it to these sweet women and men and to bury their babies in. But they also send our brochure out with it in the mail.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I think this is so important. And something I just thought of is whenever there's a stillbirth or a miscarriage, it's mourned by everybody, regardless of beliefs on abortion. But somehow when a baby is aborted, it's sometimes celebrated. And so what you guys are doing is so important because it equalizes the loss, no matter how a child is lost. And it shows that abortion is also a loss. And what a beautiful thing that you guys are getting your name out. And I'm glad that hopefully this podcast can get more people to support you guys. How do you have social media? How can people learn more and support you?
They can go to www.memorialfortheunborn to visit our website and learn more about the memorial wall. They can also get in touch with me at Carolyn B. Hayes, Hayes, at AOL.com if they have questions. And if I don't know the answers, I'll get it to the right people.
Absolutely. So www.memorialfortheunborn.org. And is there a need for donations, for upkeep? Is that something that people can do on your website as well?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, definitely. We're at a point now since 2013. So we're 10 years, just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And we're in the process of upgrading some of the pathways and the landscaping. And we just finished installation of steps up to the memorial that are very beautiful and add to the appearance of the site. So we've got a lot in the works. And yes, we do need those who feel called to give to these kind of ministries. And we always appreciate their support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know sometimes it's so interesting trying to get money for a cause, but the reality is that without money, we can't do the work that we have to do to not only support women, but to honor these lives. So if you're listening, please go make a donation and visit and check out. And if you're in Kentucky or if you're not and you just want to visit, make sure you guys stop by and offer up prayers and just leave there knowing that these lives are not being forgotten. And I want to thank you both so much for not only being on the podcast, but just for doing what you do and just taking a daily stance and a daily support of the unborn and their mothers. And we are going to be praying for you and so many continued years and happy 10th anniversary.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Emily.
Absolutely, you guys. Thank you again. We'll talk later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Let Them Live podcast. I would like to give a special shout out to Patrick at Moon Shadow Studios for doing such an amazing job of editing our podcasts. Let Them Live is a Christian nonprofit dedicated to supporting women who are considering abortion primarily due to financial burden. 73% of women have abortions because of financial struggles, and we're here to bridge that gap. Our goal is to provide the emotional and financial support women need to feel empowered to choose life. If our cause resonates with you, please visit our website at www.letthemlive.org. One amazing way to contribute is by joining our Heartbeat Club, where you can become a monthly donor, and your ongoing support will ensure we can continue helping women every single month. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the amazing stories and ways that you can be part of our mission. We are on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and Twitter. Just search for @LetThemLiveOrg, and you can also find me on Instagram @EmilyBurning. Thank you once again for joining, and please join us for more upcoming inspiring stories and conversations.